Welcome to the Rusted Garden. This is my community garden and I think we're on episode 9. It's July 18th and I'm going to do a couple things today. One, I'm going to cut in and show you all the water that filled in next to some of the plots next to me. Like I said in the other videos, I get a lot of water after rain that sits maybe a foot below the surface. So what I've discovered right here, I've got a couple tomato plants coming out of the ground. They're just not doing as well as they should be, and I think that's because they sit a little bit in water. And one of the things that I did this year was really planted stuff in different ways to see how they grew best in the conditions of the community plot. So if you look right over there, the container peppers are doing really well. I'm going to give you a tour of those, show you what's going on in the community garden plot. This is episode 9. This is one plot as we walk down to mine, and you can see this was rain from yesterday, and it rained pretty much all day. But you can see how the water is just sitting in their garden. And this takes a while, maybe 2 days for it to drain down. But as you walk down towards my garden, I don't have this much water on top, but like I've been telling you, 10, maybe 12 inches below in certain spots, if I dig a hole, water will pool. And you can see this water's just sitting in there. This makes it really tough for your garden plants to survive because they are sitting in water. One of the main things, aside from too much water, is a lot of the nutrients will get leached out of your soil if you have a garden that sits like this. This one doesn't have too much water in it. And then when you approach mine, there's no standing water, but it is suffering a little bit from the nutritional issues, I think, of all this rain just leaching out the good nutrients, either nutrients that I put in or nutrients that were there. First start with the determinate tomatoes. These are planted, a couple months ago. Determinate tomatoes grow to a set size, set flowers, set their fruit, and then they die out. And you have to remove them, take out all the tomatoes. Half of these are going to go into sauce. Some of them, have been on there a little bit too long, so they'll have to go into compost. But once I take these plants out of the containers, I started a third wave of tomatoes this year. These are about 3 weeks old. They're growing really well in the warmth of the summer. But these are more determinate tomatoes that will replace, what you're looking at right now. And I'll show you, the transformation. Just a quick tour coming over here. I've lost a couple of cucumber plants. They got to a nice size and then the whole plant wilted. And that's usually a sign that you got some sort of vine borer going on. You can see the dots on the leaves. There's some kind of disease going on with those. They're doing pretty good. I got a lot of production out of them. I also started yesterday at home more cucumbers in cups. So they're going to mature over the next 2 weeks and they will replace these. The cucumbers look pretty good. Got a nice watermelon growing over there. That watermelon is doing very well. I'm also keeping notes on what crops seem to do best over here in the community garden. More cucumbers were in there that had to be removed. That melon is not doing as well right there as this other variety hanging there. And you can see, let me just show you, different cucumbers are doing well. There's a nice cucumber right in there, ready to be picked. The other thing I want to show you today are the purple potatoes. I'm going to harvest those. They were planted back, I can't remember if it was late March or April, but potatoes go in when it's cool, late March, April here in Maryland Zone 7, and usually harvested at the beginning of July. I'm a little bit behind, but the plants did really well. When you see the tops die out, that means your potatoes are ready to be harvested. Here's an experimental place where I grew some blue potatoes, and you can see from one potato, I planted a potato about this size. This is what I got out of it. Not a huge yield, but it was only one potato from this single plant, and the potatoes actually grew only out of the root system. Some potato varieties, if you bury the stalk, you will get them coming out the side. And there's a lot on the internet that says this is true or not true. And the difference is, in the potato variety, some of them only produce from the initial place where the potato is, from the bottom of the stalks, and other potatoes, if you do bury it, will send out potatoes from the sides. I mean, it's not rocket science. But the one potato this size produced that much, and I grew them just in this container with a hole in the bottom. There are 2 in here. There's probably, well, let's just take a look. I wonder if I can pull them out. Yeah, they've all grown right from the root system. And I'll harvest all those and probably be eating them for dinner tonight. So let me show you what I accomplished today. It's actually Sunday morning. Yesterday it started raining, so I couldn't get a whole lot done, but I came back in the evening when the sun came out and took care of a lot of things. I've been talking to you about the water issues in this garden, and this is my indigo apple. It should be really 2 times, 3 times the size. It should be as big as me. So it doesn't really do well with the groundwater that sort of sits, or the rainwater that comes and sits beneath it. So all of my plants really are going to be moved into containers where I can raise the soil level, and that's actually 3rd wave of my tomatoes that I'm putting in. I planted determinate type tomatoes over here, and again I've mentioned a couple times in this video, but I just want to be clear, determinate tomatoes get to a set size and then they die off. And what I did this year was started a 3rd wave of tomatoes. These are determinate varieties that just replaced the tomatoes that finished their life cycle, and they will do perfectly well through August. You'd be surprised at how quickly tomatoes grow once you get into July heat. So if you haven't done this before, really having a 2nd and 3rd wave of tomatoes planted really will help you out, in the sense that if you get a lot of disease, and here's an example, rather than battle that tomato, you can just pull the plant if it's not doing well and put in the new tomatoes. This is a Borghese, and it's doing fairly well in the sense that it did have leaf spot. You can still see spots on there, but I've been spraying it with Serenade, and it's doing well. It's recovering. You can see the top growth doesn't have any spots. The growth down here with the spots is under control. If I had more time or more access to this garden every couple of days, that would be even better. But this plant's going to recover, and you can see a lot of tomatoes going through there. And you might notice on some of my plants I have dust. These beans would have been sheared down by now from Japanese beetles if I didn't dust them a little bit here and there. Same thing with the zucchini. It's on the outer leaves, away from the flowers, and on the stem. But basically what I did, and I've talked about in other videos, is I will put the 7 dust, or any kind of dust you want to use, organic is fine, put it on later in the evening when the pollinating insects and the good insects really aren't around, and then come back in the morning and wash it off. What that does is it really kills off the beetles that crawl around your plant through the night and do damage to them. This is some of the vegetables I'll be harvesting out of the garden in the video. Hot peppers, tomatoes, sweet peppers are in there. And over here, coming up, are blue potatoes. Even though they're purple, they're called blue potatoes. You don't have to leave the dust on 24 hours a day, and letting the pollinating insects come in and touch them. This is my pepper area. That's a leaf spot on pepper plants. That was sprayed with the Serenade too. And the peppers do look pretty good. I made the point before that the ground planted peppers, although they're producing, and I'm going to harvest a lot of them today, just aren't doing as well as the peppers in the bags. Again, that's because the soil stays pretty soggy at 8 to 12 inches, below the ground. And then the container peppers are doing really well. Container peppers did really well, and are doing really well. I expect to get peppers all the way into September. These again are above the ground, and they're planted in pots just like the one I showed you with the pepper with a hole in the bottom. A couple of myths I just want to tackle right now. Peppers will cross-pollinate. That means, the pollen from this plant could get to the pollen of this plant. This is a bell pepper. There's no spice or heat to that pepper. This actually I have as a Baggio, but this is a Poblano. Don't know what I did with the labeling, which has some heat to the pepper. Peppers stay true to whatever seed is planted. So this was planted as the Poblano. This will be a Poblano pepper with Poblano heat. This is a green pepper, an orange variety that will stay sweet. Just because they're next to each other doesn't mean that this is going to become a hot pepper. If the pollen from here does come over to here, you still end up with a sweet green pepper. For the year, the pepper flesh stays true to whatever is planted in the soil. So this year I planted the Orange Wonder, Early Wonder pepper, and these will stay sweet. Even if I surrounded them with habanero peppers or ghost peppers, these are going to stay sweet. Now next year, if the pollen crossed, I may get a variety that has some heat to it. So let me just start with this. This is an Orange Wonder. It's a green bell pepper that's going to turn just like that. So I'll be harvesting a lot out of here. This is a poblano. I'm going to have at least 5 off of here. I have some off of another plant. They're going to get grilled tonight. My red cayennes get picked. I tend to let them dry a little bit on the vine and they become red crushed pepper. Let's see, over here I have a crimson bell. They are still green, but they're going to turn red. And this guy is an orange sun yellow, and it's turning, of course, orange. I'm not sure why it's not yellow, but it's turning color, and I'm going to pick those too. This is my peppercini, great color in there, and they're going to, usually they get picked at this level and then they get pickled. That's what you buy a lot in jars, but I'm going to be letting them go to their color. Here is a Yolo Wonder. This is a dark red pepper, and that's ready to come out. Oh, there's a pepper that I totally missed. You can see that it rotted on there. This is a Marconi Giant Red. I'm going to pick that one a little bit early and use that for stuffing. Usually I put ground beef into there. And let's see, one more in here. Let's see if I can get turned around. This is the banana pepper, and it's been doing really well. I've been getting peppers out of there. But again, just because you plant sweet peppers next to hot peppers doesn't mean this year you're going to get a green bell pepper that has the spice or the heat, however you want to frame it, from either a cayenne or a jalapeno. It's just not going to happen. Hope you enjoyed the video. Gives you an idea of what's been going on in my garden. Please check out my blog at www.therestedgarden.blogspot.com, and also check out my YouTube videos. Thanks.